Today's show sponsor is Sienna Dawn Media Integrated Marketing Agency. Sienna Dawn Media is more than just a marketing agency. They're your partners in progress. Their mission is simple: to alleviate marketing bandwidth, allowing creative business owners to focus on what they set out to do: create. Sienna Dawn Media empowers creatives to thrive without the burden of managing their own social media and marketing campaigns. So if you're ready to set sail toward new horizons, let Sienna Dawn Media chart the course and steer your business toward success. Visit siennadawnmedia.com. Welcome to the Our Forever Smiles podcast, a podcast created to support mothers of children who were born with clefts and those who love them. I'm your host, Laura Arroyo, and I'm also a mother of a daughter who was born with a surprise cleft palate. I know the challenges you face every day, whether you have just learned the difficult news of your baby's cleft lip or palate, you're in the midst of pre-op or post-op, or you're an OG cleft mom. This podcast is for you. In a weekly conversation, we will talk about everything from feeding and speech therapy to surgery and school. We'll share tips from guest experts and advocates, and even share a little joy in the process. You can listen to Our Forever Smiles wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned. Hello, and welcome back to the Our Forever Smiles Cleft Mom Diaries and Support podcast. I am Laura Arroyo. Before we jump into this episode, I would like to invite you to join this community to hear other conversations from cleft moms and advocates that will help you feel supported along your journey. All I want you to do is click on the follow or subscribe button. We love your support, so thank you so much for subscribing. As a note, we are not medical doctors, and we do not intend for you to use the information that we share here today as medical advice. We are parents and advocates who love our children, and we are sharing our own personal experiences. Today, I have Rachel here as our guest. Rachel is an author and an advocate. She was born with a bilateral cleft lip and palate, and we are so thrilled to have her here with us today. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Hello.
So where are you from, Rachel?
I'm originally from New Jersey, but I've been in North Carolina for the past almost 10 years, and I love it here.
Oh, wow. So I actually live in North Carolina as well. Where do you live?
I just moved to Raleigh.
Oh, we could have done this in person.
Wow, that's so cool.
I live close to Raleigh.
Wow. Okay, we gotta connect. For real.
Yeah, for sure. I would love that. Okay. So did you have any siblings or anything?
Yes, I have a younger sister.
Were you the only child that was cleft affected?
Yes, I was.
Wow. And I like to go back to and thinking about like your journey, but I also like to reflect on the mother's journey as well, because I have a child that was born with a cleft palate. And it's the reason why I started this podcast. And it has been a mission of mine to share stories not only from cleft moms, but also cleft advocates, cleft professionals, cleft affected individuals. And so that's one of the main reasons why I asked you to be on the podcast today, is because we do want to talk to, I think so many of the moms that I speak to often want to talk to or want to hear the stories from cleft affected individuals, because they want to make sure or just hear like that their daughter is going to be okay, or that their child is going to eventually be okay and have a great quality of life. And I think that just in sharing your story here with us today provides that reassurance and that support and encouragement to other mothers who might be feeling like, um, or might be afraid that their child won't have a full life. And so, in have you had a chance to speak to your mother about her experience in giving birth to you? And if so, what was that like?
We spoke a little bit from time to time. She tells me about the different surgeries that I had and like how the process was. And I forgot how many surgeries she said I had, but it was a lot to me. But like when I look at the pictures from like birth to, I would say, maybe about 14 years old, I'm like, wow, like the doctors were really amazing. And I definitely thank her for being there for me and as a mother, like with all the surgeries and stuff like that, because I can imagine it's a lot. She told me that sometimes during my surgery, she would go down to the chapel in the hospital and she
Mhm.
would pray and pray. And yeah, that's pretty much it though.
Oh, wow. And so when you were first born, did she share any has she shared any information about, like, when she found out that you were gonna be born with the cleft lip or palate, or did she find out or was she surprised at birth?
That's a good question. From what I got from it, it seems like she was surprised at birth though.
Wow. Do you remember the moment that you felt like you were different or you realized that you weren't the same as other children?
Yes, it was like elementary school. And I remember like kids started to bully me and call me names and ask me questions like, why do you look like that? What's wrong with you? And stuff like that. And that's when like trigger. Cause like I would look in the mirror and like clearly I'll be like, okay, I look different from other people, but it's different when people are talking about it like in front of you in a mean manner and stuff. Yeah, I dealt with that for a while in school.
Hmm. Do you remember how old you were at all or anything like that?
The first time, I think, I remember it was like first grade. And then after that, it was like it stopped up until middle school. At middle school, it was really bad, would bully me and pick on me, and the boys would just call me ugly and stuff like that. And yeah, I had people that wanted to fight me literally just because I looked different from them. But at the same time of them calling me ugly and calling me names and stuff like that, they would still be like, you think you're cute and you're conceited and stuff like that. So I'm like, what? Like,
Which one is it?
exactly, like, my emotions and everything was just which caused me to have low self-esteem and, like, confidence issues and stuff because, like, I don't know, I just didn't know what to do. It's I think I'm pretty, but at the same time, like, people are calling me ugly. I was told not to worry about what other people think and worry about people calling you names and stuff, but I feel like that's easier said than done, especially as a child.
Yeah. Did you have, because you mentioned, what you were told, um, but did you have a support system that you could go to ask questions to about this? And what else would they say, or how did they support you in getting through that? Because that's a really tough thing to deal with. Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't have too much of a support system. I had my mom, but I remember asking her like certain questions about cleft lips and palates and stuff. And more like when I was a child, I would ask her about it, and she would just say, everyone's different. Don't worry about it. Stuff like that. You're beautiful and stuff. But as I got older and I asked her about it, she started telling me, like, when I was born, I guess it wasn't as much information or knowledge about cleft lips and cleft palates. At times, she didn't really know how to describe it to me and talk to me about it. Yeah.
So the one thing that I have noticed in like doing this podcast is there are so many mothers and advocates that come out, but I don't have a lot of people of color or particularly Black women that come on. And I was curious about this because I don't know whether clefts are as prevalent in the Black community as it is in other communities. And based on what I've read, I believe they're more prevalent in Hispanics and I believe Asian communities. And so I've just been curious about what the experience is more for Black families, whether it is that you don't necessarily want to talk about it, or is it something that people don't necessarily wanna talk about? Or if it is just the prevalence is so low, like, there's so few people that might be the reason why people aren't willing to come on or don't talk about their experience as much. I guess what has been your experience, particularly as a Black woman that that you have felt has made your experience different, if that makes sense? Do you feel like your mom was open to talking about it, or was your family more not wanting to talk about it, or even in yourself?
I would say more so not wanting to talk about it, but I don't know. That has me thinking because I didn't really ask or seek out information. I don't know. As a child, I remember just being stuck in my own feelings. Even when she would tell me after I've been bullied and stuff like that, you're beautiful, don't worry about what people say or think and stuff like that. It's like, you don't know what I'm going through. You know what I mean? You don't look
Mhm.
like me. I appreciate that. Especially in high school, I felt like that. I'm like, you don't know anything. You can't relate to me. That's all you have to say, that I'm beautiful and God made me different for a reason and stuff like that. I definitely would have liked to talk about it more. I felt, I feel, how do I feel? I feel like if I was talked about it more, like certain things in my life would have been different, if that makes sense. Like my self esteem and confidence and stuff, because I'm still struggling with certain stuff to this day. Not saying that would have eliminated everything, but just gave me like more of a reassurance, that made sense. Because I do a lot of research about cleft lips and cleft palates, and I try to like connect with other individuals who were born this way and also like different moms like in the groups, like the Facebook groups and stuff. And that helps a lot. 'Cause, like, growing up, I've never seen anybody else with a cleft lip and cleft palate. I just thought I was by myself with it. As I got older, things started to change. For instance, last year, I was working at a place, and a customer had came in, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and I usually I consider myself like an introvert. He's like, I don't really talk too much or whatever, but when I don't know the person. But I was like, "Were you born with a cleft lip and palate?" And he was like, "I was." And I was like, and he was so cool with it. Like afterwards, I'm like, he probably thinks I'm crazy. But then I saw him again like the next month or whatever. And he was like, "Friend, what's up?" I'm like, "Hey." But that opposed to how I grew up. Like I said, I thought I was just the only one out here. I feel like I went on a ramble.
No, 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 that's good. I love that. I think you made me think of something like because I think that as a mom, our first response to things is, no, you're perfect, you're beautiful, you're everything, because really and truly you are in our eyes. It's like, how could you think any different? But I love the fact that you point out, like, this isn't your experience. Like, you have a different experience than me. You don't have this lived experience that I have where I have to wake up and go to sleep with this face or these feelings. And I guess, like, just to as a person who is cleft affected, what is the appropriate response for a mom? What do you, like, wish your mom would have said differently in those situations?
I don't really know. I just wish that it was, like, more knowledge about it. I don't know if she reached out and sought the knowledge to relay it to me because I didn't even really know what a cleft lip and palate was. I just thought I just knew that I looked different from everybody else. Just explaining it and, like, how it happened, stuff like that. Just it should make me not feel like, I don't know. I don't wanna say alien, but like an alien, cause yeah.
Yeah. It's like makes it a little mysterious in your household, like, "Oh, it's just something that happened. Okay, let's move on. It's beautiful, like, you're beautiful. Let's not talk about it or let's move on."
Mhm.
um, from this. I find so my fiancé, his approach to it was like that as well. You find out about cleft palate and you're like, okay, it can be fixed by surgery. Okay, let's not talk about this again. And it's really hard because it's not only is the person having to go through this, but again, like this is their lived experience. And so, do you remember what was the first surgery that you can remember?
The first and only one that I remember, which ironically, I think it was my last, was I think it was a bone graft. I remember that I think I was in like 3rd or 4th grade. I remember I had to take off from school to get the surgery. And I remember having to use crutches and learn how to walk again because they took I don't really know how to explain it. My mom's better at explaining it, but I remember they took a bone from my hip and put it in my mouth or something like that. So with that, I had to use the crutches and stuff, and I still have a little scar on the side of my hip. Um, I do remember, like, when I went back to school, like, all my classmates made me, like, this huge card. That's the only surgery that I remember, though.
Wow. I've spoken to so many people in doing this podcast, and that is probably the number one surgery that everyone says that, like, the first one that they remember is bone graft. The one thing that I actually didn't realize that you just taught me is that because I was wondering where you were going with the crutches, but it is because they take the bone from your hip and they put the bone in your gum line. And yeah, you would need some type of support to help you walk, which I don't know if that still might be the case. The surgery, I think it may be a little bit less evasive now. So they do it a little bit differently. But yeah, I'm sure you had some questions about like, why is this happening to me? Or why am I the one having all these surgeries? Did that cross your mind and going to school and stuff?
It did, but once again, I just went with it. Clearly, with talking to my mom, she didn't really know what to say at times, so I just went with it. Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah. And so how did you start to make a turn that you wanted to connect to with other people and to start advocating and start putting yourself out there? When did you start to make that turn?
That actually happened, like, right before COVID. Like, I had the idea of writing my book for forever, but I don't know, like, I was always like, "How do I get started?" Like, for some odd reason, I thought to write a book, like, you had to be rich and, like, famous. I don't know why, but, like, I did research on that, and I started writing it, and then, like, I'm like, "What's the next steps with that?" Got it illustrated, published it and stuff. But with that's how I started advocating and like connecting with um cleft-affected people and moms and stuff like that. Um, like I reached out on the Facebook groups and stuff, which I didn't even know existed. I'm like, like it was just like I found like a whole family on those groups, which I'm grateful for. Um, but that's about it. Like I always thought about reaching out, but I don't know. It's weird. Like social media and technology is so cool with that. Once I found the groups, I was like, yay.
Yeah. It's definitely a way to get connected. I think so when my daughter was born, I actually didn't find the groups until she was about 3 or 4 months, and I wish I would have found them sooner because then I wouldn't have felt so alone. Like, I'm with you in that way that I felt like, this was only happening to me, that I was like 1 in a million, but
Mm.
it's really like 1 in 700. It's so fascinating the way that you can feel isolated in that. But you said the last surgery that you can remember was bone graft, and you were pretty young. You haven't had any surgery since then?
Nope, I haven't. I've been thinking about getting another surgery eventually. Just, I don't know. to correct my lips just a little bit, but at the same time, I've been going back and forth with it. In a way, I'm like, I like who I am now. I think I'm beautiful. It's just certain things that I feel like, I don't know. For instance, wearing lipstick and stuff like that is a little rough for me. Like, I just started wearing lipstick like 2 years ago. Like, when I put it on, I don't know. I just sometimes wish that my lips were like even, like on the top and everything. So I've been going back and forth with the thought of correcting that. But as of now, that's the only surgery that I remember.
Mm, wow. Have you had any, like, complications or anything, like, that you feel like so I know there's, like, the cosmetic side of it a little bit, and then there's the just the functional side of it. Have you had any, like, complications at all with, like, your palate or anything since then?
Luckily, no, not that I can think of.
Yeah. And did you have any speech therapy whenever you were as growing up and developing your speech?
Yes, I do remember having speech classes in school.
Did you find that helped you or
I would think so, but honestly, for some odd reason, it's like a blur to me. I just remember having to go to the speech class, but I don't really remember too much about it. I don't really remember before the class either.
so you've written a book. What's your book about?
My book is called Princess Riley, and it is based on my childhood growing up with a cleft lip and a cleft palate. And it is basically about embracing your beauty. Um, And no matter how different you think you may look, everybody is born differently. Some people you might not be able to see their deep differences, so everybody is different in their own way. And regardless of all of that, you should still love yourself and embrace yourself. It also touches on bullying and teasing and stuff as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Do
Thank
you how has your sister talked to you about your journey at all, or have you ever been able to was she impacted by seeing you go through these surgeries at all, or what was that like in having a
you.
sister?
We never really talked about it. She's a couple of years younger, so I don't even think she know I know she knows that I had surgery, but I don't think she would remember, like, the last one like I remember, 'cause I think she might have been, like, 6 or something at the time. But yeah, we never really talk about it.
Mm, wow. And just in what do you think has been like your biggest lesson that you've learned throughout your journey?
The biggest lesson, I wouldn't say that I learned it. Imma say that I'm learning it. Basically, to not let how I look, like, hinder my success, if that makes sense. Because
Mhm.
I feel like I passed up, like, a lot of opportunities for having, like, low self-esteem and lack of confidence and stuff like that. Even with this podcast, it really took a lot for me to do this. It really did. And I've been on other podcasts before for different things, but I don't know, it's like the anxiety and stuff, and I always in the past, like, some of them, like, I bailed out or whatever just because of, like, my confidence and not wanting people to see me and stuff like that. So I'm learning not to let my differences hinder my success.
Oh, I love that. I really love that. I think, yeah, I think that just in recognizing that your story is really powerful, and that you can really help not only other mothers, but other cleft affected individuals, other advocates as well in hearing your journey and learning about your story. One of the things that I always share with every guest that comes onto the podcast is that this is your story to share. Like I'm just the platform to for you to share it on, but I'm no expert in anyone's story. And I always just want to provide people the space that they may not have had growing up or that they don't have the opportunity to just talk about when they're out in the world, you can talk about it here. And so I just want to thank you, of course, for sharing your story, for being brave and coming on because to me, I know how that can be difficult because to me, it's just I record, it's my podcast, I do it all the time. And I always say, oh, it's just little old me, but it does take some courage to be able to put yourself out there, put your story out there, to talk about things that may have been the things that you know about that may have been traumatic to you, and then the things that you don't know about that have been or that could be traumatic to you. And you don't realize that they're traumatic until you start talking about it. And then you recall like these memories. And so, yeah, I do just want to thank you just for coming on today. And I appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Our Forever Smiles, Cleft Diaries, and Support podcast. Be sure to subscribe and submit a review of the podcast wherever you listen. I hope that you've enjoyed this audio experience. Maybe you cried a little, laughed a little, but more importantly, I hope that you feel a little piece of reassurance and even joy in your journey. Talk to you next week.